welcome to this new episode of Eternal Midnight. I'm Ken, and I'm here with Chad. How are you, man?
Good. What's going on, man?
Not too much. Santino, yourself?
I'm doing great. Just chilling here in the house.
Awesome. Dylan, how you doing, man?
Pretty well. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So we are at, I think now we're down to the bad Hannibal movies. So we are here talking.
3 out of 5 ain't that bad. 3 out of 5 good ones out of 3 good ones out of 5. Isn't that bad? It's good.
Yeah. Well, so today we are talking about Hannibal, directed by Ridley Scott. And I just want to start off, I wanted to lead this one because here's something I need to point out. So this one I honestly think is the weirdest of, it's just bizarre from start to finish. And it's strange how it turned out so weird because there is a ton of talent attached to this movie. So we have Anthony Hopkins returning as Hannibal Lecter, Julianne Moore, a great actress. She's no Jodie Foster. Gary Oldman is in this. Directed by Ridley Scott. And the screenplay was written by America's foremost playwright, David Mamet. And this is what we got. So, boys, what do we think?
How did it go so bad?
What's that?
Where did it go wrong? It's like the recipe for success right there. When I hear a movie,
I feel like, to me, this movie fell to pieces at the midway point after the inspector got killed, I feel. Like, before that, I was invested. But it just felt like after that, things just kind of crumbled.
Okay.
I have very mixed feelings on this movie. I think even when it's bad, it's at least fascinatingly bad.
Yeah. And that's what I say when I say it's weird. It's just, I'm just so, my mind is boggled by how this movie came to be.
A crippled, deformed man wants to capture someone who gave him drugs and talked him into cutting off his own face. He wants to capture him and throw him into a pen where wild boars will eat him.
Yep.
What the hell kind of a plot is that?
Already you can feel the stark difference between Silence, which feels very grounded, like this could actually happen.
Yeah.
And this is like a spy action thriller of some kind.
Yeah. So I want to go ahead and just say it. This is, I mean, we love Silence and Red Dragon, both obviously great. This is the one where I'll say, I don't think Hannibal, or not Hannibal, well, yes, Hannibal, Anthony Hopkins is as good. I mean, he still has a good presence. He's just not in his A game on this one.
To me at least, he felt, I enjoyed the scenes with him, but I think he did a good job. I enjoyed watching him perform, but it's like when he doesn't have a good supporting cast around him, it's like, what else can he do? Because it's like, yes, it is 10 years after Silence, but it's like he's just, I have the same problem with him as I have with everyone. Not a single character in this movie has an arc.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the reason why his impact is much lessened here compared to Red Dragon or Silence is that there's just too much of him. I feel like he's less interesting when he's just kind of free to roam around. It's almost like the Shark and Jaws. There's a reason why the Shark and Jaws wasn't in the movie that much. They kind of removed the mystery from him, even worse in Hannibal Rising. But for this movie, it's also has to do with the filmmaking around him. Because in Silence of the Lambs, when he was always, they play with shadows a lot in the scenes he was in, and they use close-ups a lot too, so it looks like he's staring right at your soul. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Hannibal, he's just shot like everyone else, so you can tell he's like a short, pudgy British guy.
Yeah. Also, just the fact that I feel like somehow Hannibal is just more intimidating when there is a barrier between you and him and he can't get to you.
And he can still get you mentally.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes him so terrifying. Hannibal is not as interesting. Like in that scene where he's like with the inspector and he's just standing there in his pajamas with his bare feet.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this isn't scary. Like he's not as intimidating. It would be intimidating if like we only saw him like with a glass wall between him and this guy, and if he's in his his prison suit. But somehow taking away that barrier makes him less intimidating.
I think maybe that's why they had to feel like they had to insert that scene of him killing the guy trying to get his fingerprints on the bracelet to show, oh look, he's still a force to be reckoned with, because otherwise it was like, I don't know, it wasn't needed. We know how brutal and savage and unpredictable this guy is, so it's like that. I don't know why. Nobody here has read the book, right?
Nope.
No.
I mean, people, we know the synopsis, but nobody's actually read it. Like, because my question is, why was this movie even called Hannibal then? Like, I don't get it. What besides Hannibal losing his hand, what changed from the beginning to the end for really any of these characters? Okay, Paul's been lobotomized. Big deal. He was an asshole. Hannibal is still free. He's just missing a hand. And Clarice had no arc either, because I don't even understand the beginning. I don't know how the hell she was blamed for that raid. She called off the attack. That asshole sheriff did it anyways. And it's like, well, that wasn't her fault, so I'm calling bullshit on her feeling sorry for herself. And then at the end, it's just, what a weak fucking ending, too. Like, we'll get more into it, but it's like, the movie just ends with her getting away from him and just standing there staring at a boat. No moment of her thinking about what happened or reflecting on anything. Just, it's done. This movie just held no substance for any of the characters. It felt like what, this was just a pointless story.
Yeah.
Okay,
Also,
Mason Verger died. Big deal. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got stuff to say about him, but no, the point that I've said, as weird as this movie is, as bizarre as the whole board thing is, as weird as like Mason Verger looks and everything, the plot to this movie just sort of meanders about. It feels like it's just so this is gonna sound wild, but I was watching the South Park documentary 6 Days to Air, and the reason I'm bringing this up, I know this is an insane thing to bring up talking about Hannibal, but Trey Parker was talking about writing, and when you're writing a scene, or not a scene, but when you're writing the story out, what you got to do is you got to take, pretty much the bullet points of your plot and see how it flows. And if it goes, this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens, then you're fucked. Because what makes for more interesting writing is when it goes, this happens. Like, you got to replace your ands with buts and therefores. This happens, therefore this happens, but this happens. And that just makes for more interesting storytelling. And yeah, this felt like this happens, then this happens, and then this happens. It was just meandering about to me.
That's true. You can almost just delete the Italy subplot and it would have little consequence to the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Aside from
absolutely.
Clarice finding out he was in Italy, I mean, he voluntarily came back to the States anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could have cut out the first. They could have cut out a third of this film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can we talk about just the most gross looking and gross behaving character, Mason Verger?
Okay. It's a semi-Dracula reunion. We have Van Helsing.
Yeah. Yep. He's just. I mean,
what was he?
The makeup department did great on this movie. I'll give them that. He looked revolting.
Right.
How did the character want? The thing I didn't get. Okay, I understood through the flashback he cut his face off. When he was all fucked up. How did he get confined to a wheelchair though?
I think the book explains it better because he was doing the autoerotic asphyxiation thing, and apparently he broke his spine.
Oh, okay.
They didn't explain it well in the movie.
No, they didn't. And the way they shot that flashback, it's like they shot it that way because they wanted to obscure what Hannibal looks like, but there's plenty of shots in it where you can clearly see Anthony Hopkins. So I'm like, you made this completely pointless.
Like,
why couldn't we have maybe it would have been better if they'd shot it at that weird, with the weird camera, the way they did. Maybe
That
all from
choppy
Lecter's
slow-mo.
point of view or something.
Right.
What's that,
But
Dylan?
because
I was just gonna mention that they used that choppy slow-mo effect way too much in the movie.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's a product of the early 2000s, but
Early 2000s. Yep.
yeah, like when you see like
Boars.
Lecter attacking the nurse, it's also shot in that choppy slow-mo, and there's like a just like a lion growl while he's doing it. Really cheesy.
Yeah, and like when he's on the merry-go-round and he just touches Clarice's hair.
Oh, that was so dumb. Like, did he just know she was gonna turn around at that exact moment, or what?
how did she not hear him too? They were talking on the phone.
I think, I feel bad for saying this, but earlier you asked Ken, where could this have possibly fallen apart? And I think a lot of that has to do with Ridley Scott, because
Mm-hmm.
I do like Ridley Scott as a director. Like Blade Runner and Alien are among my favorite movies, but it feels like with this film he was trying so hard to make it like grand and operatic by
Yeah.
shoving in as much like Italian culture and literature and art references throughout, and there's nothing subtle or meaningful about it. So he references the hanging guy, the Patsy guy, like, oh, what foreshadows the dude's death later, like, so what? I mean, the first movie there's the comparison between Clarice's backstory, her being obsessed with saving the lambs, which will inevitably be slaughtered, and how
Mhm.
that plays into her adulthood with how she's obsessed with saving the senator's daughter.
Yeah.
That was much more effective than any of the cultural references in this movie.
Mhm.
I think Hannibal Lecter is a character that thrives well in subtlety.
Right.
It's also really weird seeing Hannibal take out Henry Hill's brain.
I
Oh.
love that scene. It was ridiculous, but I actually really liked it.
Okay, yeah. The best thing about Hannibal Lecter is the fact that he's a subtle guy. Like he doesn't need to show off. He can act showy. He can pretend to be showy, but when it comes down to it, he's a methodical genius, psychopath.
Mhm.
So him taking out the brain and eating it and feeding it to Ray Liotta just felt like this is something some amateur pretending to be Hannibal Lecter would do.
This
Rather
does
than-
not exist. This does not exist in the same world as Silence of the Lambs.
Exactly.
Yeah. To
He
be
did
fair,
have two of the best lines though of the movie. The first one was when he caught Krenler and he like goes to chloroform him and he's like, "Oh good, you brought the wine." And the
Yeah.
other one was when he was looking at
Cordell.
oh god, Oldman and oh god, who was it? What was the descendant's
Cordell,
name again?
was it?
The character's name is
Cordell.
Cordell, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, Cordell,
Okay.
get in there, get the gun and shoot him. I'm not going in there. Do it now. Hey, Cordell, push him in. You can always say it was me.
Right.
Two best lines in the movie.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Mason Verger, I just gotta say, I will say, as bizarre as this movie is, he is effectively despicable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
he
enjoyed
deserved to
his
die.
scenes. I don't know if he was like a legitimately great villain or if I just like found him silly.
Yeah.
But obviously,
He was
for that
silly.
reason, his like Oldman's voice when yelling Cordell, like that's half his dialogue.
Yeah. Santino, what did you think of Mason Verger and Gary Oldman?
I thought he was good. I mean, like Gary Oldman, he's usually I like Gary Oldman. He's usually a good guy when it comes to acting.
Yeah.
The problem is like Mason Verger just felt a little too over the top.
Oh yeah, the whole movie is over the top though.
Yeah, exactly. That's why like okay, we're coming from this is where my flaw in the movie, like the biggest flaw in Hannibal for me is the fact that it doesn't feel like it fits in the same universe as Red Dragon, Manhunt, and Silence of the Lambs, because all those three movies are very subtle. They're subtle. They're subtle films, and then it's like Hannibal not only broke the subtlety, it took a hammer and beat it repeatedly. That's
Yeah,
exactly what happened here.
I think that's a good point you and Dylan both made. Is like, I think where this movie fell off is Ridley Scott wanted to make it this big grand epic, and that's not what Hannibal Lecter is about.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not like a
That-
he's not like a final boss, like
Right.
all the heroes have to assemble and take him out,
Uh-huh.
or he's not like a Vader or a Palpatine or a Thanos. He's a slow, methodical, calculating genius.
And when we see him walking around in jeans and a baseball cap on an earpiece on the phone, and then he gets tasered, it's like, oh, there's the bad guy of the movie. Look at him. He's just an old man walking around.
That's part of why I actually don't have a problem with the brain scene. At that point in the film, I was not taking it seriously anymore. So I was just kind of glad that it did something shocking like that. Which, by the way, this is probably the most graphic, like violence-wise, probably the most graphic of the Hannibal movies.
Yeah, and I don't think it's better for it.
True, but at least that's like the one thing that kind of stands out from this. It doesn't make it better though.
Yeah.
So I think the only major thing I have left to throw in is, because I know there's more. I'm not trying to end the episode. I'm just saying, like, the big thing I've got left is I just wish the original director and Jodie Foster had returned, because, sorry, Julianne Moore was Clarice Starling in name only. This was not the same character in the slightest. She had no character. She had no characterization at all. Like, she literally, here's a big question. Who's the main character of this film?
Yeah, no one. No one goes through a change.
There is no main character there. It feels like it's split into like thirds. Sometimes we're following Clarice. Sometimes we're following Hannibal. Sometimes we're following the inspector. Who's the lead? Who learned something? Who went through an arc? Who had I don't get it. How did they fumble the ball this bad?
Yeah, in all my literature classes, the rule that was always given was, the main character is a character that goes through a change. And I know you're all going to agree with this example. Michael Corleone in The Godfather, he starts off saying, "That's my family, Kate. That's not me." And it ends with him becoming the Godfather. He is the main character. In this movie, no one goes through a change. Everyone is the same at the end as they were at the beginning.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sorry, was someone going to say something?
I was just going to say the thing I forgot, real quick, Dylan. The thing I forgot to say a second ago was the reason I read that Dem and Foster didn't come back was they thought that the book Hannibal was just too lurid. And the sad thing is, I'm glad they opted out of this script, even though I think Dem probably could have done a better job. I'm glad, because I would not have wanted those two associated with this film. Not the version we got.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I do kind of disagree with that Hannibal doesn't go through a dramatic change. There's at least a hint of that towards the end, because so far Hannibal, we do establish that he's kind of like infatuated by Clarice, but we don't know exactly how deep his love is for her. So in his final moments, when he chooses to cut off his own arm instead of hers, that was an interesting
That's a good point.
change. Like,
well, he did have respect and affection for her in silence, it still felt like.
That's true.
Like, I mean, yeah, mentally he dissected her by getting her over the course of 3 or 4 conversations to get her to break down and tell him like her deepest, darkest, like, fear memory of life.
Yeah.
And then like we said, when their like fingers touched or whatever. So it's like, but the problem was they didn't truly, maybe the book built off that better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, if we want to talk about how the book ends, I'll tell you, Clarice has a big character change in the book.
Right.
Yeah. So
what do we got?
I haven't read it. I've read a synopsis. Does anyone care if we go ahead and give the spoilers for the book?
Maybe just give the audience a spoiler warning.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. So Clarice Starling, at the end of the book, she eats Ray Liotta's brain with Hannibal, and she sort of just gives herself over to his madness, and they become lovers, and I guess she just embraces his lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So what that's what I was thinking when I was, because I mean the book was more psychological, wasn't it?
I guess.
Like to get her to like what happened exactly in the book that got that to happen? Because the Clarice we got in the movie was just, she didn't feel like she was in awe of Hannibal, kind of like she was in Silence. She felt more disgusted with him in this movie.
Yeah, more pissed off at him.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think there were hints of that in the movie with her failing career with the FBI. You know, she's constantly getting demoted, and she is, you know, all her coworkers are kind of condescending to her. We briefly hear that she had like an ex-husband and kids. So I think that was all meant to kind of detach her from her normal life and eventually swayed her over to Hannibal, but that never happens in the movie.
Yeah, but I'll say this. I'm not sure this movie could have been saved with that sort of ending, because to me, I don't like that ending, the book ending there, because
I think it sounds dumb too.
Because I think that's a character assassination of Clarice Starling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
maybe it could have worked better if it was like they built on it being more tragic, kind of. But
maybe
the problem is they didn't build on any tragedy, because like I said, the movie starts with the failed raid, but that wasn't her fault. And the fact that she got blamed for it, I was like, that's just shit writing, because that was in no way, shape, or form her fault.
Maybe if she actually was kind of sucking as an FBI agent, that would have been better.
Yeah. Santino, you've been a little quiet. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that idea of the book ending?
So you can hear us.
You there?
Did we lose him?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay. I guess just keep going with us.
I was just gonna say that I thought the ending to this movie, as dumb as it was hilarious. The way the little kid sees the brain on the plane, immediately thinks that looks good.
Yeah.
Like he just walks over to Hannibal and he says, you know, as my mother used to tell me, it's always good to try new things. And then we get an iris wipe to Hannibal's eyes.
Yeah.
What kind of an ending is that? Like, nothing came after this, so it's like, what? Where is he going? He's on the top of the FBI wanted list. They know he's back in America. How did he manage to get to an airplane?
Yeah, well, this is pre 9/11, so.
True.
Yeah.
However, yeah, he's like on the FBI's top 10 most wanted. You'd think, I don't know. Actually, you know what? My understanding is the book. So in the book Hannibal, apparently he gets like a face transplant, and apparently that's how he's able to go under the radar. Also, apparently in all the books, Hannibal has like a sixth finger on one hand, and that's just a detail left out of all the movies.
Huh. That's weird.
That is weird. I mean, I'm glad they didn't go with it, because that would have been just more expensive and more annoying to constantly make sure the prosthetic looks good and make sure it doesn't look weird or something. I'm just, that's a detail I'm glad they just completely left out.
Does he bite it off at one point? Is there a reason for him having a sixth finger?
I don't know. I think it was just something weird Thomas Harris wanted to put in. It's just like, yeah, that's a weird thing. Let me add that.
Okay. Yeah, speaking of Ridley Scott's pretentious style, you can already tell from the opening credits, it's like showing surveillance footage from Rome and all these fast edits, but it's playing like soothing classical music over it.
Yeah. Yep.
A bunch of bizarre moments like that. Like, remember when the inspector dude falls off, his guts spill out, and a bunch of Asian tourists. Yeah, and then a bunch of tourists are just pointing and laughing at him. I have no idea what that was about, but it was funny.
Maybe they thought it was some sort of crazy art experiment.
Oh yeah, maybe. Like
just randomly somebody gets hung. Oh look, it's part of a performance for no reason.
It's the 500-year anniversary of that dude who got hung.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, that's another weird line that Hannibal has. Is just like, so what'll it be, Patsy? Bowels in or bowels out? So in the book, yeah, it's Verger's younger sister who he like sexually abused as a child that is like his personal assistant. And the reason she's staying with him is so that he can donate his sperm so she and her lesbian lover can have a child.
That was in the TV show.
Yeah, and the way he dies in the book is yeah, and you were right, Dylan. It was eels. She like shoved his pet eel down his throat, and she cattle prodded him in the
Yeah.
rectum,
You're
which
so you
caused him
can
to
come.
ejaculate so she could collect the sperm.
No fucking. See, that's
That
the
happened.
weird thing. The director of the original and Jodie Foster said they didn't want to be in Hannibal because it was too lurid, but it's like they
That's
cut out
probably it.
all of that.
Yeah, and apparently, like when they were children, Mason Verger like sodomized his sister with candy bars.
Okay, that I don't think was in the show.
Okay, maybe I'm making that up. Maybe I heard that somewhere, or maybe
Possible.
yeah, I
And
don't know.
they hint in the movie at him being like a child molester, right?
Yeah, they do. Well,
Well,
I
so
don't even.
why was he one of Lecter's patients? What did he do? I forget.
He like his dad ran a Christian day camp or something, and he like molested children there, and
Mhm.
then so he like got arrested, and because of their like wealth and their political connections, they were able to like get him off with like community service, and he had to attend like psychotherapy sessions, and it happened to be Hannibal Lecter that was his doctor.
Jeez. And Hannibal just. So I just was wondering, why didn't Hannibal just eat him then?
Maybe
Because
I don't know.
that's obviously not when Hannibal got caught. So it's like, why didn't he just finish Verger off? Why did he survive?
I don't know. Maybe Hannibal is like such a sick fuck that he just like thinks it's better to just let him live
Yeah.
suffering this way.
I forgot how exactly it happened in the show, but I think like Hannibal was like mid escape from America to Italy or something, and during which he drugged Verger and then had him cut his own face off. So I think he didn't quite have the time to finish him off completely.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So does the show go into more of what happened with Hannibal's victims? Because the movies definitely never talked about like they said why Hannibal was in prison, but they barely elaborated on any of it.
Oh yeah, I mean we see I mean Graham's the main character of the show, but
Mm-hmm.
him first meeting with Hannibal, then Hannibal becomes kind of like an ally, and then I think towards the end of the first season he already starts to suspect. We Will already starts to realize who Hannibal is.
So
And
is the show Hannibal kind of like Bates Motel? Like it's not it kind of bases itself on something as opposed to being a direct adaptation? Because like that in Red Dragon, Will had no suspicions that it was Hannibal.
yeah, it kind of just borrows. There's elements of Rising. There's elements of Hannibal. There's elements of Red Dragon. Like we see the same scenes beat for beat in Red Dragon from him falling in love with a blind girl, then with a tiger. That's all in the show.
Hmm.
But it's not exactly as portrayed in the book or the movies. I think Silence of the Lambs is actually the one they adapted the least.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, in the show.
Yeah. Because they were, I guess, saving that for the fourth one.
Or they were like, we're just not going to go near it.
Yeah, because it's like the movie's perfect. Like, why bother?
Well, do we have anything else we want to say about Hannibal?
It's got a few good things, but overall, it is not a good movie. And I checked the Rotten Tomatoes score; it's got like a 40%. And
Not right.
yeah, I'd actually agree with that. I
Mhm.
agree that this movie deserves a 40% because the few things it does right, it does a lot more wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it shouldn't have tried to go on this big epic scale that it tried to do.
Mhm. It's
Flew a little
just
too close to the sun.
a big swing and a miss, I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if we've got nothing else to say, I'm Ken, and take it easy, everyone.
Bye. And that's it for Santino, I guess.